First, I want to bring on Jorge Masvidal. He is a true A-list, A-plus list superstar in the UFC throughout the world of mixed martial arts. He is the CEO of Gamebred Boxing. Everyone, here is Jorge Masvidal.
What's up? How's everyone doing? God bless everyone watching this. And let me just say, I'm so pumped, man. I can't believe it. I'm looking at Roy. I'm looking at Pettis. It's like it's coming to life right now. I'm looking at Dean too. I'm remembering we were having this conversation about 3 months ago if this could happen. And obviously I've known Roy, my not known in person, but I've known of him, watching him since I'm a kid. And being a Florida guy, it's even more like, man, that dude's from Florida, So we go hard for Roy. And when Dean was telling me, he's like, man, maybe I can get Roy Jones to fight for us. I was like, man, that's Roy Jones, man. How are you gonna get Roy Jones? And thank God we were able to put this together. Pettis is one of the greatest 155ers I've ever seen, and their styles, they're both effective but crazy flashy, crazy swag. I'm like a fanboy, and I'm trying to be a promoter, but I'm just like, I can't believe this fight's about to take place. I just want to give a hand, firm applause to Dean Tool for making this happen. Applause for Pettis for stepping up, fighting, I think, one of the most talented, gifted, greatest boxers ever. And Mr. Roy Jones Jr. for being part of the promotion, man. I just want to thank these guys, because if it wasn't for them, this wouldn't be happening. I'm looking at these guys right now. I'm like a fanboy right now, man. I should be a little bit more professional, but it's hard right now, man. I'm looking forward to this fight like nothing else. I've heard for a while now that Pettis wanted to transition mainly into just striking the boxing, and he's been putting all his time and effort in there. So I'm eager to see how my brothers in MMA do against one of the most decorated boxers that ever lived. So let's go, man.
Dean Tool is Jorge Masvidal's partner. He is a true visionary in combat sports, as a promoter, as a matchmaker. He is a completely innovative and outside-the-box thinker, coming together with the great Jorge Masvidal to present Gamebred Boxing 4 again. That's April 1st in Milwaukee, Fiserv Arena. Dean Tool serves as the president of Gamebred Boxing. Dean, let's talk about how this show came together, you and Jorge.
Yeah, well, like Jorge said, it took about 3 or 4 months. Times where we thought we weren't going to do it, where we were going to do it. A couple key things. We do want to say thank you to Mark Bacardi with In Demand, Steve Teshi with UFC Fight Pass. This is the second ever event outside of Mayweather McGregor that has been promoted on a digital pay-per-view through UFC Fight Pass. So we definitely want to say thank you to those guys. So it took some work. The fight card is absolutely stacked. We have 3 former UFC champions on this card. We have 1 former 4-time, 8-time world champion in 4 different weight classes in Roy Jones Jr. We have a Strikeforce middleweight champion in Jacare. We have 2 UFC vets, Pearl Gonzalez and Gina Mazzani. So the whole card is absolutely stacked. So enough about me. Let's get to the people everybody wants to talk to, Pettis and Roy Jones.
Well, the main event is indeed, Dean, as all of you assembled media know, absolutely historic. This is incredible. This is really a dreamlike matchup. Anthony Pettis versus Roy Jones Jr. in the boxing ring. 2 of the greatest of all time in their respective sports coming together. We'll start with Anthony Pettis, of course. As we've said before, Jorge Masvidal reiterated, I will say it again, one of the greatest 155-pound fighters in the history of MMA, a world champion at 155, first in the WEC, then in the UFC. Everyone, here is Anthony Pettis.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Man, it's crazy to even be in this position. Roy Jones Jr., bro, my first boxing fight, to get a guy like that, it's a dream come true, honestly. A challenge that I've been waiting for. I was going to transition to boxing. I didn't know how many more seasons of MMA I had left, and this opportunity came about, and you can't say no to an opportunity like this because, Roy Jones Jr., a GOAT, one of the greatest of all time. I grew up watching him, and I get to square across, go face him across the ring, man. So it's like one of them challenges that wakes me up every morning, keeps me motivated, and I know he's coming to bring it. We just played poker together, and he got that poker face, and I know they're asking like, are you gonna try knocking Pettis out? He kept it real cool and non-chill, but I know he's coming.
Roy Jones Jr. is truly one of the greatest boxers in the history of the sport. He's also an entrepreneur, a highly accomplished rapper, a highly accomplished commentator. So many great years with HBO boxing. He's won world titles from middleweight through heavyweight. In fact, 20 years ago, He defeated John Ruiz to become the first middleweight in modern boxing history to win a world title. He will face Anthony Pettis in our main event at Milwaukee's Fiserv Forum on April 1st. Everyone, the other half of our main event here is Roy Jones Jr.
Hey, thank you, guys. Thank you for everybody for having me. Man, for me, it's like I always when I was still, at what I thought was pretty good. I wanted to fight Anderson Silva, but it just kept getting pushed to the side, pushed to the side, pushed to the side. It never happened. So I was kind of dead on all of it, and I was kind of through with boxing. I was like, I'm done. I shouldn't fight no more. I'm good. I'm 54 years old. That's enough. Then they say, one of the greatest ever at 155 said he'd come up and wait to fight you, and you don't have to come no lower than 200. So it starts sounding kind of intriguing. I'm like, wow, he's very innovative in what he does too, because he's done things in the MMA ring that nobody else will going to ever do. And for me to get the opportunity to face somebody who has that same type of creative mind in their own sport, respective sport, as I have in boxing, it's like, wait a minute, should you say no to this? And I'm like, I want to say no, but it's Dean, it's Gamebred, it's like, it's Milwaukee. Have you ever fought in Milwaukee before? No. So it's like the pros, I guess, outweigh the no's. So here we are.
Assembled media, we're going to get to your questions momentarily, but I'm going to ask a question to Roy. I'm going to ask a question to Anthony. Roy, as you look at Anthony Pettis as a striker, you know as well as I do that boxing and MMA striking are fundamentally very different. Are you starting to think about this in sparring and starting to think about the different angles in which Anthony might be throwing punches, might be coming forward?
Yeah, you have to, because he's different and he's very creative with his style, even in MMA. So he knows what he's doing. He's not a fool. He's a good striker, sparring with good fighters. I mean, Caleb Plant is former world champion. I mean, he's getting the right kind of sparring in, so he's doing the right thing to prepare for a boxing match. He himself is really getting himself together for a boxing match. He's not playing about it. He's serious about it. And to me, to be honest, to see how Jake Paul was able to make the transition and do all this he did in boxing and make that much money, it inspires other people to do the same thing. So he knows that if he can get lucky and get a chance or get a win, he's going to be on the bigger and better things. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, he putting his all into that. And it's not about getting lucky. He's trying to, do what he got to do. So it's like, I have to know that as a OG, and, I'm older, but I'm still a little wise when it comes to boxing. But what better way for him to learn boxing than to be with somebody who knows boxing better than pretty much anybody? And it's a great learning experience for him either way. So,
Anthony, we've seen a lot of MMA superstars, A-listers, former world champions such as yourself come into boxing. There have been very mixed results. We've seen a lot of success, and we've seen some not so successful performances from high-level MMA fighters. Anthony, will you talk about your training, your preparation, how this boxing camp has been different from all of your MMA camps?
Oh yeah, it's just straight boxing now, man. So, and like Jorge Jones said, I'm finding the best boxers I can spar with. And I'm living in Vegas. I got access to great sparring partners here, man. Sparring going on right now in front of me. So I'm living this lifestyle, man. Like I went and got motivated to box. I mean, how can you not fighting one of the GOATs? Y'all must have forgot it. That's one of them things that I've known as a kid, man. So yeah, I'm taking it serious. I come to win fights, and this is a whole different world that I've never been in. At this level. So the sparring I'm getting is preparing me for it, and I'm ready.
The MMA career, maybe in the back, world champion. Done so many things. How vital, how important is this boxing match? Is this kind of the cherry on top for your, your combat sports career? How important is this to get the win? Forget about just fighting one of the greatest of all time. How important is it to you to win this boxing match?
It's huge, bro. I think, most of the MMA guys that came over to boxing, didn't, besides Conor McGregor, weren't fighting top level boxers, and I'm coming over there testing myself against one of the greats. So it's huge to get this win. It's huge for mixed martial arts as a sport, for myself, for my coaches. My coaches have been busting their ass for this camp. And, I'm not going to go out there and let this go. Let's fall through my fingers. I'm going to go out there and I think he'll be surprised on my boxing skill set. I'm not going to go out there and fight like an MMA fighter. I'm going to fight like a boxer.
Man, cannot wait, man. Cannot. All right, my next question is for Roy Jones Jr., one of the greatest boxing talents, if not the greatest boxing talent of all time. Roy, I saw that you were out there for the UFC for the comeback of John Jones and talking about returns. Is this a one-off for you, Roy? Is this, you think, just one time give the fans what they want, big main event against Anthony Pettis, or are we going to see you multiple times, maybe even in 2023? Is this a return for you with multiple fights in the boxing ring?
No, and no. Only for Anthony, I'm doing this. Anthony wanted to, try to change and go cross over into this sport. With him and Masvidal, everybody that's involved, they all made it such a good situation where it's a win-win for everybody. It's a good situation. It's pay-per-view. It's something I wanted to do, which was to have a crossover fight with a good name in MMA. I think I was the first one that came up with that idea. And I didn't get to pay for it, but I came up with the idea. So Floyd and Conor got to get paid for it. So it's like at the end of my career, I still wanted to do it. And because I said I wanted to do it, here's a perfect opportunity. A guy who's also a legend at what he did. Yeah, he was a smaller weight class, but like you say, he was up to 205 pounds when they talked to him about it. So he's big enough that he know how to handle himself. And I know that he's going to go hard with his boxing because he's facing one of the greats. If I was going to go play a one-on-one basketball game against Michael Jordan, I want to get the best basketball coaches around me I can get because I'm playing a GOAT. So I know it's what it is, and I know he's going to be ready for it, but I'm not planning to do it again, no.
What can boxing learn from MMA?
Because one thing you got to know about Roy, he Gamebred.
And maybe this is good for both of you. The sports, I mean, there's more and more, seems like there's more and more crossover, and that's obviously the idea here. What can boxing learn from MMA, and what can MMA learn from boxing?
In my opinion, what boxing can learn from MMA is that MMA gets a lot better rep because the real fighters fight the real fighters. When guys are at the peaks, they meet. And it's like, yeah, of course, I'm past my peak, but I'm still a legend. He's probably past his MMA peak, but he's still a legend. So when two legends get together and make it happen, yeah, I had the bigger IQ, but he has the age. So it makes it almost an even situation for us both. Now, me, yeah, if I win, people going to say, well, you should have won. But if he can pull off an upset, now it's like, whoa, you know what I mean? So it's like the whoa factor still is there. And yeah, it's all on me, I understand, but the whoa factor still is there. And what you want to give people is they got to have an opportunity to be able to say, whoa, we didn't expect that. That's what you give people, and that's what we're giving people now.
Anthony, what are your thoughts on what each can learn from each other?
And I think it's happening, man. If you look at the fights that are happening, like Roy just said, Tank Garcia, that sold out in like 5 minutes. So the fights that are supposed to happen in boxing are starting to happen now. And I think the right people are taking note. The promoters that are in charge of this stuff are making these fights happen. Dana White, one of the best promoters in MMA, he makes these fights happen. If you look at my UFC record, I fought the best of the best in my era. 170, 145, 155, didn't matter. That's exactly what I'm bringing into this boxing. My coach is like, hey, you sure you want to fight Roy Jones at 200 pounds for your first boxing fight? Hell yeah. For sure I want to do that. That's the challenges I want.
Jorge, obviously this card has taken place 1 week before your own fight in the UFC. Of course, you work with Dean Toole for a reason, as a great partner, but how has it been balancing your time, as a promoter, doing all the things you're doing on that side, and also preparing for your own fight, literally 1 week after this card?
So it's fighting at the end of the day, and it's combat. So is especially the initial part of the card where we're matching up guys and stuff, and I'm just talking fighting, and I'm looking over videotapes of who we're gonna match up with who. I think that just keeps my mind in combat, so it helps out. Now the things that don't help is like if I got to talk to like sponsors, advertisers, the arena, things like that. Maybe not the thing that I'm looking forward to the most, but it's still combat oriented. So I feel like my mind's in it, and just being in that arena. I've done it before where before I broke the record on Ben Askren's face, I actually competed against Pettis 2 weeks before that. We had a grappling competition, and it was in Pensacola. The arena was packed, and it was just amazing. The reason why I did that, not just to get the goal against Pettis, was a phenomenal grappler, but to have that, like, I wanted to shake the jitters then, like get in front of all these people, cheering, booing, whatever it was, and just like, all right, get it out the way, because in 2 weeks, I'm going full speed, and it's with the blows and everything, and you just kind of get the jitters out, I kind of feel the same thing when I'll be at the arena on Saturday, watching these greats go at it. I'll kind of get the jitters out myself then, I'll get in front of this huge, massive crowd. I'll be there. I won't be competing, but I'll be watching the fights, and I'll have all that euphoria of the screaming, the shouting, all that stuff that goes on with it. So it's amazing. And in many ways, I get to promote the event, and I get to promote myself. So it's like, it's a double-bladed sword. Every time I do a UFC interview, I'm bringing up Roy Jones Jr. versus Anthony Pettis just 1 week before, you know. So I think it's a perfect marriage for me, man.
And Jorge, you know, a lot of people in mixed martial arts that have covered the sport like myself have, you know, considered you one of the best boxers we've ever seen in MMA. Obviously, you're wearing your hat as a promoter when you're promoting your own boxing card, but is there still a dream down the road of you actually stepping in there and doing this, you know, in your future? Because there's a lot of opportunity. I know for a long time, you know, there's the Jake Paul conversation, but Nate Diaz is out there, and obviously boxing legends. We're seeing, you know, Roy Jones against Anthony Pettis. Is this like still a bucket list item for you to do this?
100%. My first love in this world was boxing. I discovered it when I was like 6-7 years old. I saw it on TV, was immediately hypnotized. Basketball, football, no other sport never could capture my attention. Actually, nothing for the most part, but besides kung fu movies, and boxing would capture my attention, you know. And it was just, I don't know, it was just like instinctive where it was on and I was just watching, you know. And then MMA came later, and this is what I want to do. At around 11 years old is when I discovered MMA. But boxing was like my first thing, and it's always been on my list. A lot of people don't know I have one pro boxing fight many moons ago. So I would definitely love to do it and do it the right way, you know, just build myself up fight after fight after fight, you know, in boxing. The UFC one day will allow me. But if it's in fantasy world, man, I'd be boxing this year, brother.